Quick Test enables you to retrieve values in your test and store them in output value objects. You can subsequently retrieve these values and use them as input at a different stage in the run session. An output value step is a step in which one or more values are captured at a specific point in your test and stored for the duration of the run session. The values can later be used as input at a different point in the run session. You can output the property values of any object. You can also output values from text strings, table cells, databases, and XML documents. When you create output value steps, you can determine where the values are stored during the run session and how they can be used. During the run session, Quick Test retrieves each value at the specified point and stores it in the specified location. When the value is needed later in the run session, standard output values, you can use standard output values to output the property values of most objects. For example, in a web-based application, the number of links on a web page may vary based on the selections a user makes on a form on the previous page. You could create an output value in your test to store the number of links on the page. Text and text area output values. You can use text output values to output text strings displayed in an application. When creating a text output value, you can output a part of the object's text. You can also specify the text before and after the output text. You can use text area output values to output text strings displayed within a defined area of a screen in a Windows-based application. For example, suppose that you want to store the text of any error message that appears after a specific step in the web application you are testing. Inside the if statement, you check whether a window exists with a known title bar value, for example error. If it exists, you output the text in this window, assuming that the window size is the same for all possible error messages. Table output values. Table output values are a subset of standard output values, described above. You can use table output values to output the contents of table cells. For some types of tables, you can specify a row range from which to choose the table cells. During the run session, Quick Test retrieves the current data from the specified table cells according to the settings that you specified and outputs the values to the data table. Database output values. You can use database output values to output the value of the contents of database cells based on the results of a query result set that you define on a database. You can create output values from the entire contents of the result set or from a part of it during the run session. Quick Test retrieves the current data from the database and outputs the values according to the settings that you specified. XML output values. You can use XML output values to output the values of XML elements and attributes in XML documents. After the run session has finished, you can view summary results of the XML output values in the test results window. You can also view detailed results by opening the XML output value results window. For example, suppose that an XML document in a web page contains a price list for new cars. You can output the price of a particular car by selecting the appropriate XML element value to output. Storing output values. When you define an output value, you can specify where and how each value is stored during the run session. You can output a value to a test or action parameter, the runtime data table, an environment variable. You can use standard output values to output the property values of most objects. You can also use standard output values to output the contents of table cells. You can create standard output values while recording or editing your test. To create standard output values while recording, 1. Select Insert Output Value, Standard Output Value. Alternatively, you can click the arrow beside the Insert checkpoint or Output Value button in the toolbar and select Standard Output Value. The pointer changes into a pointing hand. 2. In your application, click the object for which you want to specify an output value. If the location you clicked is associated with more than one object, the Object Selection Output Value Properties dialog box opens. 3. In the Object Selection dialog box, select the object for which you want to specify an output value, and click OK. The Output Value Properties dialog box opens for the selected object. If you select a table item, the Table Output Value Properties dialog box opens. 4. Specify the property values to output and their settings. 5. When you finish defining the output value details, click OK. Quick Test inserts an output value step in your test. 1. Make sure the Active Screen button is selected. 2. Click a step whose active screen contains the object for which you want to specify an output value. The active screen displays the captured bitmap or HTML source corresponding to the highlighted step. For Windows-based applications, make sure that the active screen contains property data for the object for which you want to specify an output value. 3. In the active screen, right-click the object for which you want to specify an output value and select Insert Output Value. Alternatively, you can right-click the step in your test and select Insert Output Value. 4. If the location you clicked is associated with more than one object, the Object Selection Output Value Properties dialog box opens. 5. Select the object for which you want to specify an output value and click OK. The Output Value Properties dialog box opens for the selected object. If you select a table item, the Table Output Value Properties dialog box opens. 6. Specify the property values to output and their settings. 7. When you finish defining the output value details, click OK. Quick Test inserts an output value step in your test.